Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandi Grant, a middle school librarian in Frisco, Texas, and welcome to Penguin Random House's Winter Book and Author Festival closing keynote. It is an honor to be in a room of people who show up every single day to make our communities feel safe, curious, and seen just by opening the library doors. Today, we're celebrating something that can't be measured by barcode scans, reading levels, or how neatly the books are shelved. It's something deeper, something we feel every time a reader discovers a story that sparks joy. And there is no one on this planet who embodies it more than our guest today, author, storyteller, and brand new addition to Reading Rainbow. Please welcome with all the library joy you have in your heart, Mychal Threets. Hi. First of all,
Oh,
Mychal, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking the time. Your energy has reached every corner of library land, from public libraries to school libraries to TikTok classrooms. So I just think we should start from the heart of it all, and that's library joy and your influence on it.
yeah, no, thank you so very much for having me. I'm so excited. I'm wearing my Penguin Random House orange all the time. Just so excited to be with you all. I love speaking with library people, educators, school librarians, like you said, from all aspects. If it has anything to do with a library, I'm all for it. Little free library. I've seen some dog stick libraries. I think for me, I just love talking about library joy. I love that people have started asking me to define library joy. And I think it's my favorite thing because I honestly cannot define library joy. For me, it changes every single day. But also, I believe it's for all of us to define library joy. I think it's for you to define. It's not something that I'll ever trademark because to me, it's something that I've been privy to since I was a young library kid when I had no idea that you could combine the two words library and joy. But I think if you ask me for today, it's just simply the joy of library, the joy that the library is for every single one of us in all walks of life. If we're a kid, if we're a teenager, if we're an adult, if we're elderly, if we're ready for the library, if we're not ready for the library joy is still there for all of us whenever we're ready, whenever we need that library to enter into our lives, to discover all those worlds, to be curious, to be introverted, to be extroverted. The library is there for us. And I think that's what library joy always will be for me each and every day. 365 days a year, 366 days on a leap year, whatever it may be, I'm always going to be the biggest proponent of library joy. And I'm just so honored that so many people are seizing hold of it. I think it's so incredibly cool. And to this day, I cannot believe that people actually use that term apart from myself, even though I've said it a Guinness Book of World Record amount of times.
I thank you for that. That was my first question. And I love what you said about how there's no definition. It's just what you feel, it's what you do, it's what you embody. It's authentic. And so I thank you for that. Now, I do think that you probably need to really rethink trademarking Library Joy because you are the joy bringer, but we'll talk about that later on. We'll get into that. I really want to talk about your new joy, and it is your new picture book. So I just want to just give you a huge congratulations on your new picture book. I'm so glad you're here. It is a warm and it's inclusive and it's just full of you. It's full of that signature Mychal Threets heart. And so, what I want to know is what inspired the title and the story?
Yeah, I'm so very excited about this picture book. I actually have it. I have it right here. I'm so excited. I know my mind is blurred, but I have it with me all the time. It's I just saw on the various sites it's available in Spanish too, which I'm really excited about. I personally don't know Spanish, unfortunately, but I'm Black, Mexican, and white for it to be available in Spanish is so very cool, especially as a librarian who always used to love trying to find all sorts of titles available in English and Spanish. So I'm excited. I've been writing books. I tried to write books a lot as a kid. I read so much. I saw myself as an author. That's what I wanted to be, and just some things didn't work out. So the fact that because of social media, because of me bothering people about library joy and literacy and so many good things about the library, led to conversations with Penguin Random House and Random House Kids. It's so incredible. I don't think I'll ever get over it. It's the most special thing in the world to me. The title is I'm So Happy You're Here, a celebration of library joy. And it's just something that I used to always tell library kids and my coworkers and anybody who would listen to me at the library. I would just as often as possible, I would say, I'm so happy you're here. I would say it at the circulation desk as a library assistant. I would say it during story time as a children's librarian. And I would, when I was having one-on-ones with my staff, when I was even having to talk to people about like following the library rules, I would always introduce things by saying, "Hi, I am Michael with the library. I am so happy you're here." And then I would get into those other various conversations that come with either just being a rule following library user or with being a library rule breaker, whatever it may be. I would just try to start off conversations just like that because no matter what, it's how I felt. I was happy that people took the time out of their day to come into my library, to come into the stacks and say, "Yes, I want to know where Dogman is. I want to know where Jason Reynolds is, where Nick Stone is, where all these various authors, where the worlds of Narnia, of The Great Brain, of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, all those various worlds and titles." So I'm so happy you're here. A celebration of library joy. It's just that. I wrote it with me imagining a bunch of library kids coming into the library and discovering it possibly for the very first time. I just spoke into my phone, and then afterward, I just did the best I could to make it better for a picture book instead of just my spoken word. But all my joy, I just try to bring that across. And the illustrator is Lorraine Naum. I think she is the star of this project. It is not just my picture book; it's me and Lorraine's working together. I think she did a phenomenal job. Everything I expected from her in her illustrations, she knocked it out of the park. I gave her very very little feedback. I basically just like, "Wow, amazing, great job. What's next?" the entire time. In fact, I think the only feedback I ever really gave her is as you read this book, you may notice that there's a librarian character who looks a lot like me. And Lorraine gave that person a lot of my similar tattoos. And there's a couple pages in the process where just my arms didn't have the tattoos. So I think that was my only feedback was just the continuation of if I'm there to have my tattoos. And but no, she did an amazing job. I'm so proud. The illustrations are so vivid. They embody library joy. If it's a kid discovering the seed lending library, discovering the musical instruments, all the different things, the whole walk throughout the whole library. She did so amazing. If the book gets any awards, it's going to be because of Lorraine Naum, and that's all it is. It's just saying, yes, you can come into the library just as you are. Everyone belongs in the library. I love the representation that she made in all these illustrations. There's a kid who was blind who's reading books in Braille. There's a kid in a wheelchair. There's a service dog. There's even a character who represents unhoused kids being in the library, and I'm so glad that we were able to include that character. And that Lorraine Nam did such an awesome job of making that character look a lot like the other kids, but also just different enough in their wardrobe and things that they possibly could be a person who needs help. And I'm so excited for so many more kids, librarians, teachers to introduce the book to their households, to their classrooms. It comes out in February 2026, and February can't get here soon enough. I'm so very excited.
I bet. I have to confess, I read the book slowly, and not because it was a difficult read. It was just I didn't want to leave the pages.
Oh,
I want to show everyone what I mean. I want to show a couple of the panels. Like you were talking about the illustrations, they're so joyful and so diverse. And you were talking about your collaboration with Lorraine Nam. It just feels like you drew them yourself. So you said that you did not give her a lot to go on. So I'm wondering, how did she embody the Mychal Threets joy?
You know what, that would be a perfect question to ask her.
Mhm.
I think what she did, and I appreciate you thinking that I drew these myself. I am covered in many book tattoos because I am not an artist myself. I can make a mean stick figure. I can draw the famous S that we all drew in our notebooks and things, and that's essentially a epitome of my artistic skill. But I think Lorraine was able to get the vision across just because she herself is a library kid. She's a fan of libraries. And I think she's probably seen some of my videos and the energy that I get when I talk about my favorite place, when I talk about the library. And I imagine just from conversations I've had with her, she and I became quick Instagram friends. I think she just saw herself in the library. She imagined all those kids coming in there. I wouldn't be surprised. She's such an expert at what she does if she went to libraries, if she studied story times and just saw everything. But I think honestly, I think whatever her definition of library joy is, I think that's what we see on the pages alongside the words that I wrote. I think you see basically our visions meshed, and she was able to just come up with these wonderful array of library kids and library grown-ups and library workers who are just enjoying a day together, enjoying a day inside of a building that represents belonging. Inside that third space is a space that says this kid, that kid, that kid, wherever you are, you can roll through the library, you can walk through the library, you can crawl through the library, you can read through the library, but just come as you are with your smile, with your frown, with your friend, with your guardian, and you can just exist. And I imagine that she just took all of her talent, all of her love combined for libraries mixed with my known adoration for that place, and the result is this wonderful project that I am so proud to be a part of.
Yes, you and Lorraine are like twin souls. I mean, it was just the perfect match. I just loved her take on community and just the colors she used, and I mean, just chef's kiss. I'm so in awe of this book. I have to talk about the next thing that brought me so much joy. It's one of the best kinds of joy. It's hair joy.
Yes.
Okay, I love that you kept your look exactly, or Lorraine kept your look exactly as how you show up in real life. So one like naturalista to another. I love that choice. So my question to you is, how important is authenticity to you in your art, in your hair, and how you show up for readers? I have an amazing panel up where you are at the circulation desk. There's a library worker behind you, shelving some books, and it just embodies, or in my mind, it embodies just. I could see you doing that. I could see you at the library circulation desk, welcoming in everyone who's coming in. So, can you talk to us about authenticity in your art, in your hair, how you show up for your patrons or your readers?
I would love to. I'll be very honest. I very much, and Random House Charlton's very much knows this. I did not necessarily want to be a part of this book as a character. I very much wanted the emphasis to be on the library kids, on the library grown-ups. But they were like, Mychal, this is your first book. It's your story of library joy. You have to be a character. So because I'm a character, I'm so glad that Lorraine, as you described, was able to keep my gigantic afro in the book, in the illustrations, all my tattoos and things, because as you described, I love to just appear as authentically as possible as me. It took me a long time to grow my afro. I know it's not everybody's favorite thing, but that's okay because it's my hair. I'm a big fan of it. I love to just show up with its big, gigantic, frizzy state. Sometimes it can be a little bit curlier. Sometimes it could be prison all over the world, all over the library, and I just love that it's just still there for people to see because I think it's important to me because I've spoken with so many library kids who never got to saw a library person who looks like me at the
Mhm,
library, a person who looks
mhm,
like them at their library. I'm that exact same library kid. I never got to see a librarian with a gigantic afro. I never got to see people of color behind the library desk. I didn't get to see people who look like me. I love the library. I'm the ultimate library kid, but I didn't know working at the library was something that was possible because I just didn't see myself there. And so for Lorraine to draw me as a character, for future readers to see and read about, it means everything because it means one, and they know that they can become a librarian, they can become a library worker, but they can just see themselves at the library, even if that's not what they want to be. They still have an opportunity, and that's why it's so important for me to be there as a librarian with a big gigantic afro, with all my tattoos out, with my colorful wardrobe, with my socks with the smiley faces. I think being authentic is the only way that you can approach the library and convince people that it truly does belong to them. If you come up there with a facade, you're not then kids are going to see right through that. I in the book I wrote the word belong constantly. I need to count one day how many times the word belong is in this picture book, but it's important because I did so many story times. I know how important repetition is. And belonging, you have to be authentic to convince people that they belong. And for me, in my gigantic afro that sometimes people make fun of, that I've been bullied in person for, I've been cyberbullied for, it's just like saying, hey, that's not fun. Bullying is never fun in any formats, but you can't take this from me. You can't take the library away from me. I'm going to shine as much as I possibly can in that library with my full afro. I've seen library kids come up to me with their own frizzy afro and they're like, hey, you're just like me. Mine's almost bigger than yours, but we're measuring our afros, and even sometimes I'll have braids, and they're like, "Hey, look, I've got braids today too." Or they'll have braids, and they'll say, "Hey, if I were to undo my braids, I'm sure they look just like your big old gigantic hair." So much so that because of my afro, some kids believe that I am the tooth fairy, because I apparently have pretty poofy princess hair. If you didn't know, those are the qualifications of being the tooth fairy, according to a lot of library kids. And that, I think, it's being authentic, it's being yourself, and if that's what kids get to see as they read this book, grown-ups too, it just means everything that a person knows that they can just show up. So many of us don't like our appearance, we don't like ourselves, and I think me having my afro out is a way to learn to like myself so that one day I might actually love myself. And that's, I think, what the library represents in saying you belong here just as you are.
So if this library thing doesn't work out, tooth fairy.
That's my backup career. I,
That's the
I didn't know
backup.
it before, but I'm glad I was told.
Yeah.
I don't know how good I would be. I don't know the lifespan. I don't know the retirement. I don't know the benefits of the tooth fairy, but at least I had the hair going on, so at least I know I can at least be considered for the job.
Yes. So back to the authenticity, it is all over the end of the book too. I am the person that loves to read like the author's notes or any type of notes or the end. The end is not the end for me. So towards the end of your book, there is a beautiful message that speaks to both children, hi, and adults. So I don't want you to spoil all of it, but what do you hope that young readers take away from that little message at the end? And is it the same message you want adults to carry with them?
It is the same message. I think so often, so many of us look at picture books and we're like, oh, it's only 32 pages most often. It's very few words. It's heavy on illustrations. These are for kids, which they very much are. Picture books are perfect for pre-K through second grade and so on. I think my book is best geared towards ages 4 through 8. But I think when I write, I'm so happy to hear a celebration of library joy. When Lorraine and I work on it together, it's not just for kids, it is for everybody. And that's what that end message you're referring to. That's what we're trying to get across. I'm a person who has a full tattoo sleeve of picture book characters, because picture books honestly saved my life when I first started falling in love with reading. I think every time that I struggled with anxiety, with depression, with so many attacks, I just kept on going with my favorite picture books, with Where the Wild Things Are, with the monster at the end of this book. And that message is saying, you did it. You read a book. You were part of a book. You listen to a book, you listen to story time, whatever it may be. It's just a huge congratulations to them as a reader, library kid, library grown up. The message reigns true for all of us, is saying, you've done it. You're a part of a book. You're part of literature. You're exercising your right to read. You just did that, and it's something to be proud of. It's something to celebrate. And that's what that message of hope is it's encouraging them to seize their library joy, to keep on reading, to know that if you read one book, 5 books, 10 books, 100 books, you are still a worthy reader. It's not a competition. It is just saying, please read. If you can't read, that's okay. Write your story, tell your story. That's what it does. That message invites them into the world of libraries, the world of library joy, the world of saying that you belong in libraries, you belong in books, you belong in the world just as you are. And I hope everybody receives that and they know that it's not me just trying to be a good librarian. It's me just being so proud to be alive and to have written a book, and to have anyone who takes the time out of their day to read that book. It's just a gigantic thank you from me and being proud of the reader that they are.
Hmm. Well, just thank you. I like that you said that this book, you gave age levels or grade levels for this book because I'm a middle school librarian, but I love to read picture books to my kids. And when I was reading your book, I was like, I cannot wait to read this book to my sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. I know for a fact it's going to resonate with them. And when you all get your books, because everyone's getting one, please buy it. Please make sure you look at that author's note or that note at the end of the book from Mychal. It is truly special. It's going to warm your heart. I teared up when I read it because it was so touching. Um, I want to kind of talk about your personal journey really quick. I want to thank you for your vulnerability, how you share about your mental health journey. Many of us in education and libraries right now, we're just trying to push through, and sometimes that pushing through leads to burnout. So, what is something you've learned or you're still learning that you hope others will take with them?
Man, that's a powerful question. I think I am still learning what I try to get across to people every single day, to take it one day at a time, to take things 24 hours at a time. It's something that I didn't always believe in. I'm so proud to have been a librarian, to still be a librarian, to be PBS's librarian, to be the host of Reading Rainbow, a show that I grew up on. LeVar Burton, Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Dolly Parton. I'm raised by people who are wholesome, who preach kindness, and all I've ever wanted to be is just like them. But for a long time, I didn't believe that I was ever capable of being like them at any level. I didn't think I was worthy of libraries, of library joy, of stories, of anything. And I think now my story is somewhat well known because I share about it on social media. But there's so many people who don't know my story, and just not to take too much time, but I think in answering the question, it's a time where I've gotten to where I am today because I left libraries because I was struggling so badly. So I know what it is to be burnt out, to struggle, to experience grief, shame, to think that you're not worthy of being amongst the land of the living. It's why I left libraries. I started as a library shelver. I became a library aide, library assistant, library associate, children's librarian, marketing librarian, and finally supervising librarian. I went from library kid, proud to have my own library card at the age of 5, to getting my first library job at that very same library I grew up in, to eventually being in charge of that library and seeing library kids come in there and say, "You look like me. I didn't know you could do that. What are you doing on that side of the desk?" But amongst all that, I had so much struggle. My family was getting sick. I was going through a lot of things in my personal life, parents, grandparents, siblings, from friendships, all these things. I didn't yet have my little cats that have saved my life on numerous occasions. It was just books. I essentially made the decision in late 2023, actually around this time, around the holidays. And I told myself, I can't do this anymore. As a supervisor, for the first time, going to the library felt like work. It felt like a job. I didn't think I could do it anymore. I thought I was failing my library kids. I thought I was failing my coworkers, and I thought I was just the worst library person in the entire world, just because of writing so many incidents and dealing with all those things in my personal life. I started making the decision that I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore, and I was going to take my own life. I think I actively decided in December of 2023, that I knew for a fact I was going to take my own life at some point. And it led to me making the decision and telling the world that on March 1st, I would be leaving my library, March 1st, 2024. And I did, but at the time, a lot of people didn't know that on March 2nd, 2024, I had intended to take my own life. And I wrote a letter to my mom and dad and family saying goodbye. And for whatever reason, I did leave the library on March 1st, 2024. But March 2nd, I decided to stay one more day, and I somehow got to March 3rd, March 4th, March 5th. And now we're having this conversation, and I'm still in the world. I'm still talking about library joys. I get to have this cat, Machine Gun Kitty. I have Kissing Cat Barlow. I have my very own picture book. I'm so happy you're here. A celebration of library joy with Lorraine Nam. I'm the host of Reading Rainbow, my all-time favorite show, and all those things are not reasons to stay. There's so many reasons to pet all the dogs, in the words of Jazz Thornton, to that we haven't met everyone who's going to love us yet, and also in her words, all these things. I still struggle each and every day. We don't talk enough about what happens after you want to take your life. That there is still worry, there are still hard days, but there's so much joy, there's so much hope when we look at taking things one day at a time. And for me, the best days happen to be library days. They happen to be visits to school libraries, to kids, all these things. I remember being at a conference the other day, and I saw a kid jumping up and down, going with their grown up, and their grown ups holding a little baby, and they're like, "It's Reading Rainbow." It's Reading Rainbow, pointing at myself, and it's all those little things of hope that you don't know what you're gonna see, what you're gonna get if you make the decision not to stay. So I have no idea truly why I decided to stay on March 2nd, 2024. But I'm so glad that I did. And I'm so glad that I get to have conversations with people where they talk about their anxiety, their depression, their mental health, where they talk about their children, their spouses, their partners, their friends who also didn't want to be in the world. And sometimes they happen to decide to stay. And if it's part of my story that reigns true with people, it means everything if I can share my story and convince one more person to also stay, and encourage them that they can share their own story. They can write about why they're so happy they're here, what a celebration of their library joy looks at, that we can all follow the rainbow, that we're all butterflies in the sky going twice as high.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that vulnerability and that message. Speaking of reading Rainbow, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I love the new song. LeVar Burton, he built a legacy through reading Rainbow that still echoes today.
Oh yeah.
So, as you take up this beloved role, what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of reading Rainbow kiddos?
I love this question. You know what? I think it's very similar to also what my book hopes to get across. I just hope that
Mhm.
people remember that they belong in books, that books are for them, that stories are for them. I think what LeVar Burton always did for me was he taught me that reading is fun. He encouraged me to take a look in a book. I always tell people that he literally told us to fact check him by saying, "Take a look. It's in a book. This is what I'm saying. Now you follow up, you do your homework, you see what's in there for real." Like he's like, "I'm not lying, I'm not kidding. This is book joy. This is library joy." I think LeVar Burton created book joy and library joy way before I ever talked about it. And for me and my legacy, I hope that it's just that I'm not the star of Reading Rainbow. Those kid reviewers are, those kids who are doing the crafts with me, and also all the viewers on the other side of the screen who are encouraged to go get a library card, to read the books that we feature. They're the stars. They're who are doing it for us, to encourage them to keep on reading, to keep on achieving, to being the best versions of themselves. So For me and my legacy, if I ever am lucky enough to have one, it's that people say that guy talked about library cards a lot. He talked about libraries. He talked about books, and you asked me so well about authenticity. I hope that shines through. That I love the library. That I am a nervous introvert, but I am willing to be on a show like Reading Rainbow if it means amplifying libraries and library workers of all sorts, amplifying books and literature. So I hope that library joy is a legacy. I hope that belonging in books is a legacy, and just that everyone knows that they can just keep on going one day at a time. And the best day happens to be a library day, it happens to be a book day.
Thank you, Mychal, for your joy, your honesty, your story, and your heart. And thank you, everyone here, for being the kind of people who create worlds where every reader can say, I'm so glad you're here. Let's show our gratitude for Mychal Threets. We appreciate you. And finally, a big thanks to everyone in the audience for staying with us until the end of this amazing Penguin Random House Winter Book and Author Festival. Shout out to the many sponsors and partners for making this a successful event. Remember that all of today's panels and the resources in the booths are available for 3 months. So feel free to revisit the virtual environment to catch anything that you missed. Now, I have an assignment for all of you out there. Go out there and spread some library joy. Thank you all. Thank you, Mychal.